Here. Cool. Alrighty, well, I hope you guys are having a good lunch break today. Hello YouTube, and welcome all who are watching. I am Jesse Tovar, and this is Noontime Poetry at My Place Cafe. Since My Place Cafe is still open during this live stream, stop by and get a coffee, cold brew, or latte. Above My Place Cafe is the Zen Den, a yoga studio. They had a sunrise class today. Learn more about these yoga sessions at thezendenla.com. I am thrilled to have a fellow poet who is also Pisces like me, right?
Yes.
Yes. I met Carl Ska when I saw Ska read at last fall's Altadena Arts Festival. I have seen Ska read prior to that at special publishing events and Dryland magazine events. Caro frequently collaborates with Los Angeles Poet Society. Caro is currently a library manager at Sims Poetry Library. Introducing Caro is Dryland magazine assistant editor Nikolai Garcia. He read at My Place Cafe on President's Day weekend. Dryland is known all over California. I am going to screen share the introduction.
Hello, this is Nikolai Garcia. You might remember me from such online readings as Future Now, which I host at first Thursday of every month, or my own feature here with My Place Cafe Saturday afternoon poetry, which I did just last month. I'm coming to you live from Compton, from Patria Coffee here, um, which is in my neighborhood. We don't have the big, beautiful, delicious sandwiches like they do at My Place Cafe, but the coffee and the baristas are top notch here. So if you're ever in Compton, come through. You'll probably find me at one of these little tables writing, working on a draft or something. Um, Let me see. Uh, so I've actually had the privilege of knowing Caro Ska for around 4 years now. And ever since I first saw her read at a library in East LA, I've been a big fan. Um, we quickly developed a friendship, and actually, pre-pandemic times, me, Gato, and a couple other writers would meet here about the workshop poems. She had put out a chapbook in beginning of 2020, and she just released a new book, which is right here, Loving Salt Drenched Bones. And before I say anything else, I'm gonna read the bio that's in the book. Caro Ska, she, they pronouns, is a South Asian and Eastern European non-binary femme poet living in unceded Tongva land. They migrated here in 1996 from Warsaw, Poland. Anti-capitalist and anti-authoritarian, they find joy where they can. Some of their other work appears in Dryland, Resurrection Magazine, the Intercultural Press, Altadena Poetry Review, Cultural Daily, Maria Sampaguitas, and Ayascala Magazine. They are a three-time 2020 Pushcart Prize nominee and were a semi-finalist in the Jack Grapes Poetry Prize. Their first chapbook, Gathering Grandmother's Bones, was released on February 29th, 2020. For updates on how to purchase her book and other stuff, check out the website, caroscott.com, or hit them up on Instagram. Now, this book is really fucking awesome. It is very autobiographical. Uh, What I love about karo is that they know how to end the poems. They don't keep dragging them on forever and ever. And uh, there are no wasted words in this book. Everything is very intentional. It's amazing to me that she didn't really get into poetry seriously until maybe like 5 or so years ago. But it seems like they were born with the gift of poetry. And that's one of the things I also love about this book. It's not just an author talking to you, it's crafted well. It's very poetic, imageries, metaphors, line breaks, all top notch stuff. And you can tell this is somebody that really practices their craft, especially when it comes to editing. There's no first drafts in here. Everything is highly crafted. And honestly, besides that, it's just a very good economical book to buy right now. Gas prices are high. This book right here, it's two fucking books, honestly.
Yeah.
It's 152 pages. This could have been two books. So you're getting two for the price of one. Get this book. Caro will now go ahead and read a bunch of stuff from here, and she'll sell the book better than me. Thank you, Jesse, My Place Cafe, for letting me introduce this. And now, please enjoy Caro Ska. See you soon, Caro.
Hi, hello everybody on YouTube and hello here in person. Woo. My name is Karo Stein. Like Nikolai said, I just published this book, Loving My Salt Drenched Bones. And I'm excited to be here and read you all some poetry. So let's get started here. This first one I'm going to read is for my ancestors. It's called A Prayer to My Ancestors. Bengali ancestors, I call on you. Find you swimming in the rivers of my bones. Your spirit's wisdom bathing in my marrow. I am the West Bengal Muslim migrating after the 1947 partition of India. I am the Mukti Bahini fighting in the 1971 war for liberation. I am the rickshaw my grandmother pulled, rescuing Hindi girls from a war not of their making. I am the lost languages, the lost recipes across European dictated borders. I am the bird flying over barbed wire, the smuggled cow lifted by a crane across the fence. I am the refugee craving a spot to call home. I am the August floods, the monsoon rains, the delta silts. Bengali ancestors, what words can you gift me to deepen the magic of your heritage? America's falsified promises rage against the peninsulas of my lungs, sneaking a flag into my heart. I pull it out, shred it, burn it. No flags will take root in my body. I am made of people, not nationalities. Ancestors, we looked at the same sky, conversed with the same moon. Now I dream with you. I dream of a world breathing free without shackles, chains, and police needs. Ancestors, you conjured me body into being, protected me, held me when no one else did. In your eyes, the ones I see reflected in the mirror, I see a future not yet ready, waiting to be born, and I hope I'm making your dreams come true. Thank you. Yeah, so that's like Nikolai said in my bio, I'm I'm Bengali and Polish. And then this is specifically mostly to my Bengali ancestors. And then, I think part of my story is that my mother, who's a Polish one, denied me my heritage for a really long time. She didn't want me to be, she wanted me to be white and not mixed. And so this next piece is called At Urgent Care with My White Mother. She watches me check other under rays, squirming in the plastic hospital chair. Her eyes heat and narrow. She says, her voice high-pitched, check white, you'll be seen faster. I taste bitter blood in my tongue. My bones shrink, my cheeks flush, my grip on the pen tightens. I ignore her. I will not allow her to erase me. I'm white, but I'm also South Asian, brown-hued, sand-stained. I'm my father's child as much as hers. She raised me, but I see in the mirror my mud-flavored eyes, the color of silt where my ancestors blossomed. A homeland I can't call home speaks a language I hear in the vibrations of my genes. I could try and pass, but my Bengali grandmother says no, says be proud of who you are. I'll take pride over belonging. I'll take pride over pretending. I'm tired of making myself fit into boxes and forms, tired of being this idea of an ideal child. My mother says, check white, you'll be seen faster. And tears threaten my throat. I don't want to be seen faster by a lab coat and clipboard. I want to be seen by her, my mother. Thank you. And so, yeah, I have a kind of a complicated relationship with my mother, where I felt a little bit like exploited with her and also exploited by her, and also just, didn't really ever have a very good relationship with her. And like, like it says in my bio, I wasn't born here. I was born in Poland, and I moved here in 1996. And then this one, this next poem speaks to what my mother tried to do to make money when we first got here. It's called My Mother's First Idea to Make Money in Los Angeles is to Get Me Cast in a Commercial. With no car, we trekked around Burbank on foot. She held my hand, pulled me from audition to audition, where I would sit on men's laps while they asked me to smile. I never did. They never called back. I fluttered back into my cocoon, begged to be caterpillar, begged for camouflage and infinite legs. Eventually, we stopped going. I was declared a failure at 9 years old. In therapy, I list the reasons I can't forgive this woman who birthed me, who I sometimes call mother. In therapy, I lift her off my diaphragm so I remember how to breathe. Grazing my fingers across my soft, tender belly like a dune of sand, I dream of having a tougher exterior, an exoskeleton, a spine I could extract and throw like a javelin. Then maybe it will be easier to forget a mother who tried selling me to Hollywood. Thank you. I've never actually read that piece out loud. I've been doing these readings. I've been trying to find pieces that I haven't read as often, because sometimes I get tired of reading the same pieces. So I wanted to throw some new ones out there.
But I have like read this one. I read her book, and this was it's kind of sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's like interesting how parents would try to like exploit their children in some ways, instead of letting them just like be children. So then I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I'm gonna read an older poem that this is actually also in my chapbook, and I wanted to read it because this is my my father's story, which sort of intersects with my mother's story as well. But yes, so it's called 3.5 by 2-inch hugs. I learned my father's name from a 3.5 by 2-inch business card. I learned he's a film director living in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I want to know more, but I can't ask. My mother's irises pinwheel in pain. Instead, I type his name into a search bar. My eyes and fingers tremble. I discover my father, a documentary filmmaker. I stare at his picture, trying to see similarities. I watch him in videos. Like me, his hands are fireflies as he talks. My mother says my face reminds her of him above the nose. I email him. I am your daughter. He has no idea I exist. He shoots movies, travels from Bangladesh to India, replies when he can. I ask to see him, he says, not yet. In my youthful dreams, he was a knight. He arrived to rescue me. In my adult reality, he is a man. In my adult reality, fathers did not hatch from business cards ready to give 3.5 by 2-inch hugs. Fathers cause purple and black bruises. Fathers drain their spouses' bank accounts for beer and cocaine. Maybe I'm lucky. Mine can only hurt me through the web. I walk away from my internet father. I wish I could say I never look back. 15 years go by, I still search for him. Are some things better seen from afar? His business card I can't find. Did I throw it away? Why can't I remember? Like him, it slips through memory's crevices. My fingers brush his cheek, touch only pixels on a screen. Yeah, so this piece, like talks about the story of my father, and in this poem, like I talk about, I never actually met him, but I did find him because my mother gave me a business card. I was able to look him up online and connect with him that way. But he lives in Bangladesh, and it's very and he was never really, I guess, interested in seeing me or building a relationship with me. And that is what it is. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to like find out a little bit about him, and I still kind of keep tabs on him because he's like in news articles, because he's sort of well known in Bangladesh. So it's kind of interesting to learn about my father through this sort of not actually like talking to him, but still being able to find out like who he is like through the internet, which just makes the internet such a like an interesting thing where how it connects people. So my book is really autobiographical, right? So it talks a lot about my experiences and just like my story. Writing it has really been very much sort of me letting go of a lot of my past traumas and sort of releasing them out into the world, which, I've always, I think is something that's really important. And I think we all have stories to tell. And I think it's important that we do tell them. And then, something else that I think is important is that we talk about some of the stuff that makes us uncomfortable, or some of the stuff that we don't really talk about that makes us feel like it's taboo. So another thing that I discuss in my book, besides just like the story of like my family and my mother and my father, is also how I deal with like different mental health struggles like depression and anxiety. Because if you go through especially if you go through like early childhood trauma, which I think a lot of us to some degree have gone through, and there's also like structural intergenerational trauma. So there's we've all like suffered trauma to some degree, and that usually comes out with some sort of either depressed or anxiety, which is why so many people are depressed and anxious. So this next piece is called 7 Ways to Say You're Anxious. 1. Your jaw clenches, your teeth squish together like commuters riding the rush hour train. 2. Your shoulders swallow your neck, kiss your ears, mountains form under tectonic pressure. 3. A ghost's fingers wrap around your throat, cold and cruel, your screams are invisible. 4. Embedded in palms, the thorns of a pink prickly pear you picked without any gloves. 5. In the morning, dread does laps around your skeleton, marathoning buried bones. 6. Your circling thoughts are vultures or crows. They threaten to peck out your dry, roasted eyes. 7. You're the tart aftertaste of pineapple, a juicy, golden disappointment. Thank you. So I think in that poem, I try to sort of encapsulate what it feels like to actually be anxious, and how it's not just like some, like a lot of times I think people like associate anxiety when it be like running thoughts or like panic attacks, but I think it's not just that. There's like layers to how anxiety feels in your body. But again, it's not something that we really talk about. So I've been on a journey of healing, I guess, for a little while now. And a part of that is going to therapy, part of that is writing, and then part of it is also like doing things like yoga and meditation. I shared that one.
piece with Zoe. Incomplete,
Oh yeah, then yeah. Oh cool, yeah. So in my book, I also have an incomplete list of techniques I use to cope. And yeah, one of them is like meditation and yoga, and there's a whole list of them, including like hugging trees. So there's so many of these things that like we can do that can help us sort of lessen the intensity of like anxiety and depression and post-traumatic stress and all that other stuff. So this next piece is called A Voyage Home. In the mornings, an extended child's pose. I repeat, I am safe and choke on my tongue. My third eye reaches for home underneath the concrete mess of civility and my cracked memories. I search for home in the dictionary. Its definitions evade me. My roots are snakes. They hiss, spitting venom. I try burying them, but they leave twin bites on my wrists. For 18 years, my home wasn't safe. Home was a mother drowning herself in painkillers and debt. Home was a microwave dinner or Chinese takeout. Home was where I took an X-Acto knife to my wrist, where the blood felt safer than watching my mother kill herself with prescription meds. In the mornings, an extended child's pose, I repeat, I am safe and choke on my tongue. My third eye reaches for a home underneath the concrete mess of civility and my cracked memories. My tears run like wolves down my cheeks, growling and yeeping. I unlearn 18 years of fear, one day at a time. Third eye feeding from the earth, murmuring, I am safe. One day I'll believe it and befriend the snakes hissing in my roots. One day I'll make it home without bites on my wrist. Thank you. So another thing that I don't think I actually list in the incomplete list, hence the incompleteness of it, is like affirmations and like saying affirmations to yourself. And that's actually something that's been a little bit more recent for me in terms of as a way of coping, because I always kind of felt like, I don't know, like saying affirmations felt like it was kind of like silly, or like it just didn't feel that impactful. Like how is like repeating something every day gonna make me like feel better? But then, I really like, I do it like every morning, and there's about like 5 or 6 that I say. 2 of the ones that that are my favorites, like I am powerful and I got this. And it's interesting how much repeating that every day has actually really seeped into like my everyday life. Like something like meditation, I'm like much more aware of my breath. So when I get like nervous, I'm able to like return to my breath or return to the phrases like that I say in my head. So that way, all the like negative messaging that I received as a child sort of is blunted. And I think everyone has a different way to cope. So I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I do think that it's good to have a good toolkit of ways that, will help you, will help make each day a little bit easier to get through. Okay, so let me check my time here. Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm an immigrant to this country, and so English is not my first language, and and I kind of struggled with that in the beginning. Especially because I really loved writing. Like I wrote when I first started writing, like Polish was my first language. So like a lot of the stuff that I first wrote was in Polish. And then, then I had to like switch and like learn how to write in a completely different language. In a language that's, very much like imperial, and it was very much like forced on me as well, where I was actually made to forget Polish because my mother was like, you need to like learn how to speak English. Like, what's the point of like knowing this is a language? No one else speaks it, which is like not true because everyone in Poland speaks it, right? Like, and there's people, and it's like being bilingual is such a gift, right? And so I'm really, I'm sad that I wasn't able to hold on to that. So this piece is called English is Not My Language. My primordial language abandons my tongue. In my brain, words I knew for 8 years disappear. I ache, craving syllables and sounds no longer familiar. An empty vocabulary hisses at the back of my throat. The snake in my mouth struggles, learning a new dance. It tries to uncoil, trips on teeth until they teach it to say teeth in speech therapy. I read out loud, the students laugh. English is not my language. I search for my voice within a prickly thicket. The thistles discourage me. My words bleed red on English papers. Passive verbs run on sentences. Low verbal standardized test scores whisper, English is your second language. Rejection from creative writing classes murmur, give up. English is not my language. I learned to switch from Carolina to Caroline as if an English sounding name can. It doesn't. I learned to switch from mama to mom, watching The Simpsons, choking on Homer chokes Bart American culture. I learned to use the semicolon. I learned to activate my verbs. What was mine is gone. Only a caged snake remains, rattling, fangs poised, snarling. English is not language me. Yeah, so I think that part of the reason that, like, you know, it took me a while to get to this journey as a poet and come out with these books is because I just wasn't, yeah, I was never really encouraged to take up like creative writing. And I think that's a mix of, you know, I think just the arts are just never really encouraged. Unfortunately, people are often, you know, told to pursue things that are like pay more money or whatnot, which, you know, you're like, how are you going to make it as an artist? And so, but like art is so important to us, I think it's like, you know, as people and, you know, and I just see a lot of people that I think are very, you know, very creative, sort of give up on their dreams. And I did that for like a really long time. I didn't get back to it. I didn't get into writing. I think it was like 4.5 years ago was when I decided, like, I was like, I'm going to quit my job and just, you know, just see what happens if I just dedicate a few months to writing and see if I can actually see if this is still something that I really love to do. And you know, and I remembered as a kid, like really loving poetry. Like I read that poem by Carl Sandburg about the fog being a cat. I don't know if, yeah, so it's a pretty, I guess, well-known poem. And I just blew my mind. I was like, what? The fog is a cat? Like, you know, it's just like, and I, you know, and so I just really fell in love with poetry as a kid. And then, yeah, and then, you know, and then I just didn't really get back to it until, yeah, like 4.5 years ago, where I was like, well, let me see if I still really love to do this. And I did. And so, and here I am with my book. Yay. Okay. And so, yeah, so I guess, you know, don't be afraid to go after the things that, you know, that you want to do. So I'm going to read a couple more for all of you. So the other, some of the other things that I write about is also sort of like, I guess these more like implicitly political, explicitly political poems. And so this one I wrote, so some of these pieces I wrote because I was writing this book in 2020, right? And then there was all the uprisings that happened in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. So a lot of, so a few of these pieces speak to what was happening at the time. And also just, you know, because it wasn't just, I mean, you know, it wasn't just George Floyd that was murdered, it was also Breonna Taylor. And there was a lot of, you know, there's a lot of other people that were killed by the police and are still being killed by the police to this day. And so this piece is called Waiting for Rain, and it's for Breonna Taylor and also Kurt Andres Reinhold, who I think most people don't know who he is, but he was murdered also in 2020 by the police in Orange County for jaywalking. He like crossed the street and then, yeah, in San Clemente, yeah. So, so Waiting for Rain. I am dry like the summers of Los Angeles, dry like the dandelions scorched by the relentless sun. Dry like the tears I couldn't shed when Breonna Taylor's killers weren't convicted. Dry like her body, hydrated by the flames in the streets. Dry like my anger, tinder for a fire in my heart. In San Clemente, cops murder Kurt Andres Reinhold for jaywalking. I am lost in the dry of my lips, in the disappeared saliva of my helplessness. Dry like my hope, dry like my prayers. What is there to do but to keep speaking, keep writing, keep being the water we so badly need? No election will bring the dead back to life. No politician will stitch the wounds of America. No judge will deliver the wings of justice to the graves. I am dry, dry like the promises of democracy, dry like people's tongues craving a drop of equality in a desert where the oasis is a mirage, where they tell us they won't use excessive force, but the headlines don't change, the murders don't stop. A 500-year-old nameless genocide dehydrating our souls. We are husks of our potential. My belly thunders, my feet strike, signaling the approach of rain. In the distance, a powerful storm brews. In the future, a brutal empire drowns. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, I think that piece kind of speaks for itself. So, you know, actually I'm gonna do one more, like sort of more of my politically inclined poem, and then I'm gonna close it out. Let me see, which one do I wanna do? Let me do this one. So this one I wrote after the Thanksgiving holiday, and also probably in 2020. And so I went on that day, and I went and like sat with the land, and just, I don't know if I was trying to like apologize or what, but just the colonization that happened here, that's happened a long time ago, but it's still happening. And so, and I think that's important to also recognize. I tell the land, you deserve better. You deserve more than leaky pipelines crisscrossing your heart, nuclear reactors spewing atomic waste into your lungs, pesticides seeping into your skin. You deserve more than a species who thinks they need money more than you. Every month I pay rent and enable your theft. I dream of co-ops and no-cost housing, of vegetable gardens and open air free markets. Dear land, how do we evict an empire? How do we fight guns with words and bricks? How do we recover your magic, our bulldozers, GMOs, and aerosols destroyed? I keep writing, searching for the incantation to set you free. I tell you I need more time, but time is running out at the speed of glaciers melting. I press my palms into your dirt, slaying my fingers, a holy invocation, a prayer. I tell you I see your future, a future of ready to pluck berries, their juices painted on the lips of the people who dared to dream of a land without dollar signs. You breathe. A wind frolics in the tresses of my hair. A leaf taps my shoulder. Rain kisses me and you. We are alive and we deserve more. I'm actually gonna close it out with something that I put that's in so this is actually my first full-length collection. But before I published this, I actually came out with a chapbook called Gathering Grandmother's Bones. And so this is a much smaller collection. I think it's only like 50 pages. This is like 152. And so, but I haven't read any poems from here in a really long time. I came out with this my chapbook in 2020, literally, I think like a week later, everything shut down. And so I never really got to, do like a lot of like in-person readings, or even like, things were in such upheaval in the beginning of 2020 that I just, it didn't seem that important to get my book out, because, we were like in the middle of this pandemic. And so, but yeah, so I was like, you know what, let me go back to this, to this book, and specifically this poem, because I was really excited to start reading it, and then I never really got to. It's called In the Frozen Food Aisle. Gleaming glass doors showcase frozen food packaged in plastic and cardboard. I'm lost in my choices until a voice startles me. Excuse me, do you work at UCLA? You look really familiar. The red mesh basket bulges on my arm, straining from dirt-freckled potatoes, scarlet-flushed apples, and frizzy-haired broccoli. No, I don't. My eyes scan 5-pack burger patties, blueberry-speckled waffles, and frostbitten peas. Oh, where are you from then? Oblivious to my flitting eyes, my coiled spine, and my quivering triceps, I'm from here. Knowing he craves my genetic fragments, access to my ancestors, but I am more Los Angeles than anything. He rephrases, stumbling, stuttering. So what's your background? Feet throbbing from a 6-hour shift. I adjust my basket, cyborg my answer like a pre-recorded message. My mom is from Poland. My dad is from Bangladesh. It doesn't satisfy. Wow, well, what's your story? Now I lie. No story, and walk away. In 2020, if anyone asks again, I'll sell them my book. Thank you. So yeah, I need to bring that piece back because I was like really excited about it because I don't know, yeah, I do get a lot of questions about like my identity, and it gets kind of frustrating sometimes because I'm always like, I don't really want to, like tell like random complete strangers my entire story, and I say that and I realize I'm doing that by having written this book, but at least this is more with like my consent, and so versus just like I'm like grocery shopping and somebody's like, let me like tell you, I want to hear your entire life story. And I'm like, now I'm like, just buy my book and then you find out. But anyway, I wanted to thank Jesse and My Place Cafe for letting me read here today. Thank you. And it's my my first time here and I'm drinking a coffee and it's delicious. So so definitely stop by My Place Cafe. It's in Pasadena on Los Robles Avenue. Again, thank you to Jesse and then thank you to Nikolai for that lovely introduction. It was very sweet. I appreciate you. And okay. Oh, yeah, sure. Questions. I love questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, I noticed when Jesse was introducing you, sometimes he said karo and sometimes he said ska.
Yes.
So either.
Oh yeah, so my poet name or sort of my like adopted name is Karo Ska. So that Ska is just like the last name part of it. Yeah, but my full like name that I was like born with is Carolina Shmanska. So that's where I just cut off I don't really go by Carolina. And so I like Karo better. My name actually got like Americanized by my mother when I first moved here. So she was like, you should change your name to Caroline because that was like more like, American sounding. But and then when I was like in my early 20s, I kind of like took my name back. And I was like, I want to go by Carolina and not by Caroline. And then I decided just to cut it short and go by Karo. So yeah.
Before I came here and I looked at the postings about you, and I noticed the repetition of bones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in your book and also the title of your chapbook.
Mm-hmm.
And loving my salt drenched. Oh my gosh, salt drenched
Yeah.
bones. So beautiful.
Thank you.
So what can you tell us about the meaning of that word for you, bones, that's used in both titles?
Yeah, so bones is I've always really been attracted to bones for like a variety of reasons, but I feel like part of it is really just how I connect to like home and I think my ancestors, because I don't I've been really cut off in terms of like of being like knowing my family on either side. And so I feel like my bones are like literally like my genes and what I feel like my ancestors passed down to me. So while I don't actually have like family that I can talk to, like blood family that I can talk to, I feel like they're definitely like in me, part of me, and like in my bones. And I feel like just there's so much like magic and energy that's in bones. I mean, it's like, everything else, like our flesh will deteriorate, like our hair will, go away, but like our bones are left, right? And I think that's just so, there's just something so really great about that. And I actually have, whenever I see like animal bones, like I feel like, there's a lot of like, you can touch them and you can feel like the energy that they, that they had here on Earth. And I don't know, I just feel like I just have this connection with bones and just their permanence, and also like, the how, they're what our ancestors, literally gave me. They gifted me my bones, right? Yeah.
One more?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. No, thank you. We usually do this, but it doesn't happen a lot.
Okay,
thank you for
gotcha.
doing this section.
Yeah.
One of your poems that really English is
Mm-hmm.
not your language. And I tried to write down one of the lines that I really appreciated, and I don't think I got it right. Did you coin the phrase mind-witch? Is that what you said? I thought I wrote down, I searched for a mind-witch.
Oh,
Like, my language. It's what it sounded like to me.
I wish I had coined that, but I think I just I think I just said it really quickly. Yeah. What?
Or the last line here, English is not language. That was, I like that part, how it flips from like.
Yeah. So, what was the line again that you're?
I thought you said I searched.
Oh, okay. So I said I searched for a, and then there's like a slash and a my. So that's what.
Oh.
Yeah. So I search a for my. Yeah, that's what the
You said my language, / my language.
voice.
Oh my.
Yeah. I search for a / my. Oh no, it's fine.
And I think close to the beginning,
Mhm.
you said that your language of that. What was that line?
Yeah, I mean, like my language. So yeah, like I said, like I knew Polish because I lived there for 8 years, and so like I was fluently speaking it. And then when I came here, my mother was like wanting me to like learn English, and so as a result of that, like she was like, no, don't speak Polish. So she basically was like didn't let me speak like this language as a way to get me to like learn English. And so like one day I remember it like I I was like walking and I realized my thoughts were no longer in Polish, they were in English. And there's this same thing with like with like dreams, yeah, you suddenly, sometimes like people would dream like in another language, right? But like I started dreaming and thinking everything in English. And I remember like that switch because I was like, oh wow, I'm no longer thinking in Polish. And then over time, like because I didn't have anyone to speak it with, I just don't really remember it anymore. And I've actually tried to like listen to something in Polish to see if it would like something would come back, but it's like nothing. Like, so it's interesting, right? Because I'm like, it has to be somewhere in my brain, right? Because like I was like, I knew it for 8 years. So how does something like that just completely disappear? But yeah, I don't remember it.
That was really beautiful. It made me feel like it was not a voluntary thing on your part. You didn't abandon language, but the language, fled from you. Like it wasn't wanted. It reminded me so much of when I was very young. I was 5 years old, and one of my father's sisters took me with her to Jamaica, which is, their home country. I'm first generation in the United States. And when I came back after spending a whole summer there, I was fluent West Indian patois with the accent and the words and everything. And I remember my mother, well, I don't remember from when I was 5, but later on, my mother shared with me that she was terrified when I came back from Jamaica because I was going to start kindergarten the next month. And oh my God, is Cynthia speaking like that when she goes to kindergarten? And she just worked with me, she said, until the accent and the language bled.
Oh, yeah, and it's very,
many years later, one of my cousins as a teenager went to live in Jamaica for a number of years, and she came back speaking the language. And I was so jealous, because I didn't think it was something that I'd ever get back. Anyway, I love it.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say about that is like, and that's very day in public school. Like when someone asked me last year during the online school phase, someone had to like go into school certain days of the week just get tested on how to pronounce English words because they were in English classes. Most of them came from like China or Korea like a few months before that in like late 2020 and 2021. So that kind of brings back to those my observations of that. If that makes sense. Like that's what happens to this day. You know what I mean? But for someone to like work with like a kid to make sure they speak perfect American English or perfect standardized Westernized English.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not even like enough to like know English. It's also like about how you like actually speak it, like without like an accent. And that was like the thing that my mother was like really afraid of me having an accent, because she had an accent because she learned she was spoke English as well, but she learned it when she was like 18 or 19, and she didn't have, you know, so she had an accent. Nothing wrong with accents. A lot of people have them, and so it's like, but there's definitely this thing about like making sure you like speak perfect English, like grammatically and like, you know, too as well. And so it's and it just erases so much like culture, like other ways of speaking. And you know, like a lot of other countries, you know, people like bilingualism is something that's like very much like people like will learn like 2 or 3 languages in school, and like that's beautiful, you know. And it's like here it's like just learn just learn English. And then you're cut off from so much of the rest of the world because, you know, not everyone speaks English.
Especially with, I'm gonna say I sometimes think, I don't know for sure, they feel like, well, you're saying the language you learned at home, with your family, that they can still tell you how to speak your other language. Like, speak you perfect here, then in this public school, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, not to diss our parents because they know kids can be brutal.
Yeah.
And if we're in schools talking differently from everyone else, we're gonna catch it.
Yeah.
You know, but if there were a way that we could keep both. One line that I love that you did, another line was you learned the semicolon.
Oh,
Which to me points to that thing about, oh, you gotta speak it and you gotta speak it perfectly.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. I know, just like the grammar too of like in school, you know how schools, instead of like being like, oh, maybe maybe your grammar isn't perfect, but you came up with something like you wrote a good story, and instead of like affirming, they're like, oh, like this is the wrong tense, or this is, and it's just it like discourages people. So it's
Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, those are wonderful questions. Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry. So one thing I want to say about Carl's book and 2 other books by Brianna Munoz and Carla Cordero, what they have in common, those 3 books, is they talk about soil. And the reason I think about soil every now and then, and I'm probably mention this again in Brianna Munoz's reading in a few weeks, is that it brings me back to like what I learned about Aspasia in grad school. She's one of the other female like thinkers that was around at the same time as Plato. And she talks about like having to return to the soil a lot. So that's why I especially enjoy this book and the 2 other books, that they talk about always returning to the ground, to your ancestors, because everything is still connected. Even like if you pass away, like, and it seems like, oh, well, that's it. After you pass away, and that's it. If that makes sense to anyone on YouTube or here, But I do want to say, Caro, great job, and thank you for reading. I'm happy your My Place Cafe event is now a reality. Thank you, Nikolai. Thank you to all who are watching. Thank you, Latanya, Jody, and all my coworkers who just walked by and listened to, during the set, which was Vinny, Olivia, Cheyenne, who's Latanya's daughter. To get in touch with Caro Ska, follow her on Instagram at Caros_Ska. That's double O's and double A's. If you want to submit a poem, prose poem, photography, and or art to Spectrum Publishing for the upcoming online issue, Spring Fantasy, submit up to 3 poems at 150 lines or less that mention spring and or fantasy, or photography and or art that fits the theme as best as possible to DonKingfisherCampbell@gmail.com. Deadline is tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. If you get published, you get to read and or discuss content at the Spectrum Publishing and Flower Song Press collab on Saturday, March 26th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., which is after Brianna Munoz's 2 p.m. author reading at My Place Cafe. For now, have a great weekend, everyone, and remember to make My Place your place.